debate is therefore be it resolved that with the announcement of a high school in Eastern Passage and expanded capacity in Cole Harbour High to train young people in skilled trades, this government is showing its commitment to putting kids and learning first. And it's been submitted by the honourable member for Cole Harbour Eastern Passage. The chair now recognizes the honourable member for Cole Harbour Eastern Passage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's certainly my pleasure to stand before the House today to speak about the tremendous investment that this government is making in the community of Eastern Passage and for the constituency of Cole Harbour and Eastern Passage in so many ways. In the high school for Eastern Passage and a skilled trades development of a skilled trade centre in the Cole Harbour District High School. Mr. Speaker, it's no surprise that unfortunately that the opposition members are in this House on a number of occasions since that announcement, expressing unequivocally and very openly that they are against a high school for Eastern Passage. It's no surprise that for so many years past governments have neglected that community. But those days are over, Mr. Speaker. We have a government that is putting kids and learning first and communities' needs for their families and their students front and foremost. Two significant announcements, Mr. Speaker, equally exciting, and I'm proud to be part of them for different reasons. And I'm going to start with the constituency of Cole Harbour and the opportunities that Nova Scotians will now have in looking for a future in the skilled trades. They've never been greater. The $25 billion shipbuilding contract awarded to Irving Shipyard is truly an economic game changer for Nova Scotia, Mr. Speaker, and it's expected to generate millions in economic spin-offs and 11,000 jobs. And our government wants our youth to stay in Nova Scotia, to train to get those jobs. Our NDP government is making strategic investments and purposeful and responsible investments in skilled trades. The announcement at Cole Harbour District High to renovate, to create a state-of-the-art skilled trade centre is welcome news for so many people around HRM, students. I was there, Mr. Speaker. I was there along with the Premier, along with the Minister of Education, and I heard the cheers. I saw the faces of the youth that knew that a new chapter was opening for Cole Harbour District High, and that's exciting. Students and staff and administration were thrilled to hear about the upgrades that were forthcoming with this investment. It turns a page in history and offers an opportunity for people to look to go to Cole Harbour District High, look for the good news and the great things that are happening at it. And it helps meet the needs of the students and increase the supply of skilled labour in Nova Scotia. This will allow students to start thinking about this industry early, Mr. Speaker, and it creates links, direct links from the classroom to the jobs. As well at that announcement was an additional $5 million to establish a fund to increase the number of schools offering skilled trades around Nova Scotia from 9 to 18. That's an investment that Nova Scotia should be proud of, should be celebrating, not condemning from the opposition members. That side of the House would like to see those, would like to see those jobs continue to go, those skills continue to go out west. This government does not believe in that. We believe our young people are poised and ready to have this training. The future starts now for the students preparing for good jobs in Nova Scotia, Mr. Speaker. Eastern Passage High School announcement was one of the proudest days of, well, I would say it's probably the proudest day of my career as an elected official. I've had the pleasure of knocking on thousands of doors through 3 elections as an elected representative, successful campaigns, I might add. And overwhelmingly and unequivocally, the message was clear. A priority of a high school for Eastern Passage was at the heart of the advocacy in that community. Our NDP government recognizes, as do the residents of the Eastern Passage area, and quite frankly of members around this room, I've heard it today, that schools are the hearts of the community. And Eastern Passage deserves to have their children educated fully in their community. I'm not surprised as well that opposition members would speak about ask questions about the configuration of schools. But what puzzles me about it, earlier today, a member asked a question about what would it look like? How would the schools look if there was renovations to happen? And I would ask back, Where was their concern when Eastern Passage was, for the gamut of decades, going through a number of scenarios, probably more than most communities? We have had P-6 schools. We have had primary-only schools. We have had P-4 schools ×2. Currently, right now, we have two elementary schools, P-4. We also have a 4 to 6 school right now. We have 7 to 9. We've had split shifts. We've run the gamut. Finally, there's a government that recognizes that this community deserves the stability of having what is traditionally known as a full education in their own community. And those governments of the past, they just didn't care. Well, this NDP government does care about the constituency of Cole Harbour and Eastern Passage. What is so nice about this investment and this decision, what I take so much pride in, is that on so many occasions, the Premier and I have discussed, as would be no surprise to anyone, the need for a high school in Eastern Passage. And how do we get there? But beyond a doubt, there was a support for it. We've been in this House as opposition for roughly 9 years before I became the MLA. And this party, the NDP party, supported a high school for Eastern Passage. We became government. We continue to have those conversations. But with the scenario around how to create a high school, people would pitch and offer opportunities to say why it would be a bad idea, when the Premier and I and others that were involved would talk about this can be good for everyone. Communities don't have to suffer. A member opposite actually tried to suggest today that a school in his riding would benefit from that $15 million to renovate and correct a scenario in his school, which I'm all for. If there is a problem in the school, I understand that it should be addressed, but not at the consequence of a constituency. You don't have to take from one to give to the other and take opportunities away from a community that has been fully and completely neglected by governments of the past. I would argue that every day, and it's so disappointing. And frankly, that from that member, I know he's offering the party rhetoric associated to those questions. I can't believe for a minute that he fully believes that Eastern Passage doesn't deserve a school, but that's what they're saying. They just don't care. But this NDP government does care about Eastern Passage and Cole Harbour and Eastern Passage. Mr. Speaker, when we were down at Seaside Elementary School and making that announcement, we were surrounded by community members who were so excited that they brought them to tears. There were senior citizens there who have grandchildren who were so excited because they knew for 30 years. 30 years is a long time to be fighting for this, to be advocating in every election, and from candidates from all parties were at the door, rest assured, supporting a high school for Eastern Passage. Now that an NDP government is the one government that listened, supported, and delivered on that commitment with this investment, now, of course, that's their job to oppose it. But, Mr. Speaker, our government is only one part of having that announcement. There are so many people who never gave up in Eastern Passage. There are members of our community like Maureen Ebsery, who has been part. I remember when her son is a little older than mine. I've been 30 years in the community, and I've heard about the need and talked about it for my own sons. But Maureen, Jeep DeVoe would be another one who continued. I referenced him at the announcement as a founding father of high school advocacy for Eastern Passage. Stephanie Eddy, yes, he has a son, Kevin DeVoe, who stood in this House before me as well, and spoke of the need for Eastern Passage to have a high school. So, Mr. Speaker, I know that my time is running out. Chris Peters in the community, Todd King, Michelle Kempton, they're all members of our community who believe strongly. I know that members opposite will bring in references to people who don't necessarily think it's a good idea, but I would ask that those people in the community continue to dialogue with me. As discussions are had around the configuration and how this is going to come to be, that's what I want to hear. I need to hear from them. At this moment, though, I would like to take the time to publicly thank the Premier, the Honourable Premier, the Minister of Education, for putting kids in learning first, for caring about our community, and bringing a future to Cole Harbour and Eastern Passage.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes the honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'm pleased to stand in my place today and take part in late debate. When I take a look at the newspapers and the media and the emails and the tweeting and so on about the state of public education in our province, that probably the bigger topic of public education is what we should be spending our time on here today, because we do know that it is a great challenge to deliver strong and equitable education right across our province. And I come here to Province House and believe and promote that every child in Nova Scotia should have a great opportunity when they enter the public education system. And again, having strong resources and having a dedicated plan, not one that you know, gets references to, you know, oh, Ben Levin gave us the light and to go forward here with public education change in the province, you know, or the latest document from the NDP, you know, Kids Are Learning First, which is, again, many of those things are already in place with our best schools and best staffs in the province. And yes, we always need some degree of change and improvement, because public education must be a dynamic service to the province. So, you know, I guess, Mr. Speaker, I see this issue perhaps more from the school board and the consulting and the work that members have done in the community, and in fact put great effort into putting a priority list together. And I know the kind of consultations that the Annapolis Valley School Board had with staff, right down to even the design of a school. The school where I taught and was administrator, staff had that opportunity. But that's well along in the process. You know, school board did have Cole Harbour in sight for some renewal, and in fact it was eight on their priority list, and so they were hoping that in fact it would move up perhaps a little quicker, and I guess with the Premier in that riding, you know, it did take on a rather fast pace to the top of the priority list. And, you know, I certainly agree the concept of having additional trades courses. We have no idea what they will be yet. Will it be offerings of O2 at each of the senior high grade levels? Maybe that's what the new shape of the skills trade courses are going to be. You know, again, it's a nice catchphrase. It's one that certainly there is a need for, a greater concepts of vocational training within the public school system. But, you know, when we have children that are coming through without many of the basic skills around literacy, numeracy, good citizenship, you know, those are the areas. Because I've been involved with the IWK and the changes in the mental health program, layoff of staff and so on, I did a quick little survey. I picked 7 schools across Nova Scotia. I just did it at random, and I called 7 senior high schools, and again, having contacts made it rather easy, and there wasn't a single one of the schools that didn't have children on the wait list for mental health assessments. I mean, that's the reality that we have in this province, that we have to look at what are the things we need to be doing for young people that will enable them, that will make them stronger as adults to function in our province. So I think we're some days here in the House, you know, really looking at and debating what are not the priorities of Nova Scotia. And you know, and this, you know, school, we all welcome new schools in our communities. But there are a number of questions here, especially since those that were in looking at the future of schools in the Halifax Regional School Board did not at this time see the need for a new school in Eastern Passage. Desirable? Absolutely. But was it right now the time to make this investment? And I think you know, those that were looking at this issue, you know, have raised some very, very important questions that perhaps maybe we can get some answers to. You know, questions like how much extra operating dollars will HRSB be given to operate this school? How many students will want to attend Eastern Passage School, considering we will only be able to deliver the minimum programming? That's one of the realities today with a school of 400 for a high school. And in fact, the Department of Education has been talking mostly about the concept of a 750 student school to deliver the strongest and widest range of courses that should be offered. Courses like the IB program, the International Baccalaureate program. Any kind of specialized courses, again, need students and teachers to be able to offer a full range. How many students from Eastern Passage will want to stay Cole Harbour due to the skilled trade programming? Obviously, Cole Harbour will have a more generous offering of courses. Just looking at the physical plant that Cole Harbour has, and with the enhancement of the skilled trade courses, again, we can see a significant number of students that could be siphoned off to go to Cole Harbour. Why was the school board left out of the decision? Because, you know, I think that's an important part of the process. If this government no longer has faith and belief in school boards, then announce it publicly. Say it publicly. Don't do it in insidious ways. Don't hit school boards in those kind of indirect ways. Deal with them directly on. And why wouldn't the government fund other schools of greater need first? Sunnyside is one of those schools, for example. Do all of the parents, you know, really want this school? I think this is a great time for that public survey. Some provinces now and jurisdictions are engaging in a wide review of people's perspectives on issues, and especially the investment in infrastructure. It's extremely costly, and is it the right decision being made? So I think it's important for those questions to be answered along the way here. And again, at some point in time, Eastern Passage having a school with all of the criteria that is required for a modern high school, and if all those add up to a school, by all means. Do they at the present time? Many questions unanswered. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes the honourable member for Victoria the Lakes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to stand this evening and speak to tonight's late debate topic. You know, Mr. Speaker, we saw today what this government's commitment to putting kids and learning first is. Today, with the Chignecto Central School Board, the government began to reap what it sowed. When it comes to cutting ribbons, Mr. Speaker, the NDP have their trusty scissors in hand, but when it comes to making cuts, they hide behind school boards. It's funny then that today, the government chose for late debate 2 opportunities for them to cut ribbons. Now, Mr. Speaker, no one would argue about educating young people in skilled trades. But once again, this government has circumvented the system. The minister went to great lengths to make sure the ribbon cuttings would take place. She did an end run around the Halifax Regional School Board. She announced a capital project based on political needs rather than the requirements of the school board. Mr. Speaker, the Eastern Passage School wasn't even on the Halifax Regional School Board's priority list. It was forced on them. It must have been on the NDP re-election priority list. The minister made the decision without any pesky opinions from the Halifax Regional School Board. But, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to making pork barrel political school announcement, she doesn't even give them the courtesy of hearing what their priorities are. The Minister of Education has told this House she was looking forward to April 20th, the day she will receive the priorities of all the school boards. She said that's when decisions will be made. How ironic. Unfortunately, she made the decision to build the Eastern Passage School without hearing from the board. And you know, Mr. Speaker, it's not only the school board that was surprised by the announcement. Our office has received emails from parents who don't like the votes and pork barreling first plan. There are 2 of many letters that we received over the short time since the NDP started their pre-election spending. One email from a local resident told the Premier that, I quote, "It's not giving Eastern Passage a high school, it's allowing you to take Cole Harbour High for your own purpose without consulting with the residents."
I would ask the member if he would table that.
Yes, I will table those, Mr. Speaker.
And does it have the name of the individual on it?
Yes, it does.
Thank
and
you.
Also, Mr. Speaker, another said, "I do not believe that the majority of residents would like to see a high school built here. Please rethink this costly mistake and keep busing our kids to a school outside of this community, to broaden their horizons and to make them better people." Mr. Speaker, these quotes are from people who were not consulted. No one was consulted. And apparently, consultation in this time gets in the way of the NDP pork barrel political moves. You know, it's ironic as well, Mr. Speaker, that in the media today, the Premier talked about school boards being partners with government. Well, I'll bet you that the Halifax Regional School Board and the Chignecto Central School Board don't feel like equal partners today. I guess, Mr. Speaker, you're only a partner with this government if you agree with them. So, Mr. Speaker, it's safe to say today that if this government showed the same commitment to kids and learning that they do to cynical pork barrel politics, our education system would be a lot better. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. That ends the late debate for this evening. I want to thank all members who participated for their debate that they took place in, and I now say that the House is adjourned until tomorrow at 2 p.m. House is adjourned.